Coming to paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this all-new Spinsterella story. Pre-order your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer at Amazon.com and other online booksellers everywhere. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. Former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk are calling for the abolition of all intellectual property laws. Now, according to reports, Jack Dorsey called for the abolition of all intellectual property laws, and while he was on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Elon Musk co-signed this whole proposal as related to abolishing all intellectual property laws such as copyright and trademark laws here in the United States. Now, this whole proposal to end all intellectual property laws is something that would upset many creators like myself, because what these two billionaires are proposing is to take away our rights to our intellectual properties as related to being wealth building assets, and take away our rights to be able to make money under the current system of royalties. Now, the copyright system was basically put in place to protect many of the creators and like authors, filmmakers, artists, and people as related to them being able to own their own intellectual property by certifying their rights. And these wealthy billionaires, what they want to do is propose to abolish these laws in an effort to, I believe, look to feed their AI machines and feed their AI machines so that they can profit at our expense. Because the only thing keeping them from profiting from these, as related to their AI machines, is all of these copyright and trademark laws here in the United States and abroad, which secure the rights for independent creators as related to their books, their films, their art, and many other forms of media. And those rights, if they are abolished, would lead to these billionaires being able to profit at our expense. And that's where I basically believe these nerds basically have come with a bad case of a god complex, where they are like Icarus, flying way too close to the sun. Now, as I've stated in previous videos, when it comes down to nerds oftentimes don't really think about people when they go out here and participate in social situations. And when they're on places like social media, they go out here and make statements, not seeing that these statements can go out here and alienate people, because in many cases, when it comes to many nerds like your Jack Dorseys and Elon Musks, these nerds basically live in their own world and are further enabled because they can go out here and hire a lot of yes men, to tell them what they're saying is right, similar to what happened to the late Howard Hughes, a man who basically, again, lived inside a bubble with mental health issues. But in the case of these two billionaires, they're basically caught up in the delusion that they can go out here and propose abolishing things like intellectual property laws, and it's supposed to be perfectly fine. And what they don't see is, like Icarus, they're flying way too close to the sun as related to their whole idea of being the gods over the internet. And they're basically flying so close to the sun, they're basically on a road where they're about to wind up in the same place as the previous people who created the dot-com craze back in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Because if you call for the abolition of intellectual property laws, then that basically is going to go two ways, because it means nobody owns anything. And if nobody owns anything, like I said before, as related to Klaus Schwab and his iconic statement, you will own nothing and be happy. Okay, if nobody owns anything, nobody cares. And I've seen this firsthand growing up in the South Bronx as a child and a teenager, when growing up on welfare in Section 8, when nobody owns anything, nobody cares. And again, that makes it where much of that intellectual property loses its value, and loses it so fast that it crashes like a rock. because what made it have value was its connection to people. And that's the big problem that happens with many of these tech nerds, is that because they're disconnected from people, they don't see how their ideas don't fit within the real world. And because they don't see how their ideas don't fit in the real world and don't really have anybody there to be pushing back on them, they go out here and make statements like this, not seeing how they're basically alienating a lot of people, alienating people as related to things, because if you abolish the intellectual property laws, again, nobody owns anything because copyright is secured for the life of an author or as related to a book for their lifetime plus 75 years. And when it comes to trademarks, if they have to be used over the course of a decade to remain relevant and in order to secure those rights, and other forms of rights, again, are owned by the individual, and again, these are the ways that creators get paid, by securing those rights in foundation as related to the U.S. Copyright Office or the Trademark Office with an official record, and they're secured even before that thanks to copyright law, because they're secured with the creation of the item, and again, secured with the creation of the item. But what these guys want to do is take away the rights of the creator as related to their intellectual property, take away the wealth as related to that intellectual property, because there are no greater models to pay creators outside of people looking to license those rights. Usually when it comes down to a creator like myself, if I write a book like say Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl, if in order for me to be paid, I'm paid first through royalties on sales of that book, which is a percentage of the price of that book. And if I can go out here and make a deal, I can get paid also through licensing those rights, such as film rights, such as TV rights, such as foreign rights as related to media. I can go out here and license those rights and again make money on the intellectual property that I own, and that's under the laws here in the United States. I can get that here and abroad. And the whole thing is that those laws, again, help protect a creator right here in the United States. And if you make deals with foreign countries, you can get to secure your rights in foreign countries as well. But when you go out here and abolish intellectual property laws, it leaves it where nobody owns anything. And again, if nobody owns anything, then how are people going to get paid? Critical question I would like to ask Jack Dorsey as related to his former platforms, Twitter and Blue Sky. Again, how do you get paid if you don't own any intellectual property? If you don't own intellectual property, how do you get paid? Because what you're proposing, again, as related to so-called much greater business models, again, they don't really exist, because, again, what makes these intellectual properties have value is the demand that the public has for them, and the demand that the public has for them, that's what gives a property its value. But the whole thing is, these guys, again, what they want to do is take away the value, because they think AI is going to be the next big thing. But AI, as I see it, cannot function as any sort of thing that has value, because one, you can't copyright anything that's made by AI. Two, anything made by AI, really, you don't own anything as related to it, because it's created by a computer, not by a person with their own hands. And three, AI in and of itself is just a derivative of a derivative, because AI is basically making things based on the aggregates of the works of other people, and AI basically cannot really create, because when it comes down to things like books, literature, and art, these are things created by people based on their life experiences, I mean, that's where I draw a lot of things as related to many of the stories that I write. Many of the stories that I write come from my own imagination, from experiences that I have had in life. And what these guys think they're going to do is use people's intellectual properties to milk their machines. But their machines in and of itself will cease to function, because if people have no incentive to go out here and create things because they can't own anything, they're just going to abandon these tech platforms. And again, these tech nerds really don't see where they're going, because many nerds in and of themselves, they have a bad case of tunnel vision. They have a bad case of tunnel vision where they can only see what's in front of them and really see the short term. And I talk about this in depth in my book, Stop Simping in Cyberspace and The Man Crisis. Many of these tech nerds, again, they become their own worst enemy. They become their own worst enemy because they can't see what's in front of them and as related to where they're going. And again, if you take away the intellectual property laws, then it makes for a free-for-all where nobody owns anything and nobody cares. And that basically makes it where man loses his ability to have incentive to create, because where you're sitting there talking about how there are all of these platforms that are going to be able to make money. Again, they basically want to go out here and think that there's going to be a way for them to make money with this AI, but AI cannot function because, again, you can't take people's copyrighted materials and use them with for your own thing. Again, the only way you can use copyrighted material is with fair use, and that's why I put fair use disclaimers in front of any video I do where I'm using news footage. Again, I use that because it's, again, I can fairly use that in my commentary and criticism. But many of these nerds, they want to, again, get power and control, because when it comes down to nerds, many nerds want to control everything, but this is oftentimes their own undoing. It's oftentimes a nerd's own undoing, because as they look to grab power, what happens is it slips through their hands like sand in the ground, because as they look to try to grab everything, they wind up with nothing at all, because in their quest for power and control, again, they want to be the ones who are the god over everyone. But like Icarus, they basically fly too close to the sun and they wind up falling. They wind up falling because they think that they can grab all this power, but wind up with nothing at all. Wind up with nothing at all, because the whole thing is that you just can't take people's stuff and do whatever you want with it. No, you can't take people's stuff and do whatever you please as related to their material. I mean, when it comes down to many of these tech nerds, again, they are getting too arrogant and too full of themselves and too greedy. And again, they're thinking like the previous people, the robber barons, who were basically, they thought they were gods. And again, they didn't see how they were a part of their own downfall, because they alienated most of the people. And instead of looking to serve the people, they wanted to be served. And again, these nerds want to be served because many of these nerds have power issues. And as they have power issues, they basically want to, again, take control over everything, because they think that they're smarter than everyone. They think that they're smarter than everyone. And unfortunately, many of them outsmart themselves. They outsmart themselves because they wind up thinking that they know everything, but don't know human nature, and don't know that you, again, are getting ready to alienate lots of people. Alienate lots of people because you cannot go out here and take away people's intellectual property law rights, because they own that material. Again, when I write material, I own the copyright to it. Again, any book that I write, whether it be The Man Crisis, whether it be the ISIS series or the Steam series. And again, many of these people, these billionaires, all they want to really do is continue to be gods over people and eliminate their competition. They don't want anyone to come up. They want to be able to rule a fiefdom where they think they're going to go on forever. And the Bible talks about these people. I believe in the 49th Psalm, they think they're going to go on forever, but they're not, Jesus. No, these false gods, again, want to be able to have the right to take your creative content and use it to feed their AI and profit at the expense of us on their AI. But their AI in and of itself is a flawed technology, similar to the flaws with their whole .com platforms that came up in the late 90s. The whole .com craze basically was completely flawed from minute one, because many of those people, they were, again, having their heads gassed up as related to the billions that were being poured in by these hedge fund managers and other venture capitalists who were thinking they were going to make big profits, but by about 2001, even before 9/11, many of these platforms were faltering, like Cosmo.com and many other of these platforms. And the same thing is going to happen to AI. AI, while it's getting a lot of attention from people like James Cameron and many others, it's going to fall completely apart because, again, AI can't work without people, and again, doesn't work because you need life experience in order to make media. You need life experience in order to create. You just can't put fingers in a keyboard and make up an image. You have to have life experience to come up with that image. And again, that's why AI material has no heart, no soul, no depth, no sort of energy. I mean, it just feels completely artificial. And because it doesn't connect with people, it doesn't really resonate with people. And that's what we're getting with a lot of these tech nerds. They're disconnected from people, disconnected from reality. They're living in their own world, and these computers create an online echo chamber that further is exacerbated by yes men who say yes to everything that they say. That's completely insane. And again, they'll tell these guys that they can put on some wax wings and fly up to the sun, not seeing how these guys are going to crash. And again, when I look at these tech nerds, I see guys who are basically full of themselves, so full of themselves that they're becoming so disconnected from reality that they don't see that they're on a place where they're about to crash and burn, where their tech empires will fall like the Roman Empire, and like the nation and other empires like Egypt and many others, and basically wind up becoming a whole bunch of silicon ashes that are going to wind up being left in the dust. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the dysfunctional behavior of people online, you can check out my book, Stop Simping in Cyberspace, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find Stop Simping in Cyberspace at other online booksellers, and like Drafted Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to read a story about an online company that basically is run by one of those people who were a part of the dot-com crash, you can check out my book, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer, which deals with an online company that Matilda is working for as she's on vacation, and see all of the things that basically led to that company's complete demise in the year 2000. And you can find Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer on Amazon.com in paperback right now, or you can pre-order a digital copy on Kindle right now, and by clicking the link in the description box. Now, if you want to see me take nerds to the barbecue, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers, the Steam Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Steam series adventure. Pre-order your copy of the Steam Season of the Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and Kindle, Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Learn how to avoid predatory females like Instagram models and e-girls in their virtual con games with Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Get your copy of Stop Simping in Cyberspace in paperback and Kindle today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.